everyone, this is Callimara here, and no, it's not calamari. Welcome back to my channel, or if you want to join the pond, go ahead and take a dive. You might like it here. As explained by the title and thumbnail, I'm gonna be drawing Sunset Shimmer in my style and giving her a fresh fit and story. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So, Sunset Shimmer. Arguably the dark horse of the pony popularity contest among fans. And how could she not be? She's literally designed and written to be the definition of cool. She wears studded leather, she's super smart, athletic, rides motorcycles, is an artist, a gamer, a musician. Her personality is kind of tomboyish, kind of rebellious, kind of big sisterly, and she's confident and brave and a leader, and her motif is literally fire. In a way, Sunset almost feels like someone's OC, in the sense that she's just good at everything, though she does have her moments of weakness. I mean, she literally started out as the main villain of the first Equestria Girls movie, and after being redeemed, it took a while for her to earn the trust and forgiveness of her peers again. And even then, she still hasn't completely forgiven herself for what she did, and she's afraid of repeating the same mistakes again. There's a lot to discuss about Sunset Shimmer, including some anomalies as to how she ended up in the human world in the first place. But let's start with her design, shall we? I wanted to put Sunset in a pose that shows off her punk rock personality. She's a maverick. She doesn't play by the rules. That was the kind of vibe I wanted to emulate with her pose. Physically, I gave her a bit more muscle and shape than Twilight, who was more slender and willowy because canonically, Side-Twi is pretty uncoordinated and unathletic. Design-wise, I have no doubt that Sunset was intended to be Twilight's antithesis. They're both named and themed after transitional states of the day, but Twilight leans more towards nightfall and Sunset leans more towards daytime, dark and light. Twilight being refined and studious, and Sunset being wild and rebellious. Twilight preferring to follow the rules and staying within the lines. Sunset forges her own path and pursues her goals fearlessly. Twilight prepares and plans extensively. Sunset improvises and makes plans on the fly. Even based on their shape philosophy, Twilight and Sunset are opposites. Twilight's design is very streamlined with lots of straight lines, sleek and clean shapes from her mane to her cutie mark. Sunset's is full of jagged lines and swirls, which you can also see clearly in her mane and cutie mark. I do think she is very well designed and stands on her own as a character though. Like, maybe if she hadn't abandoned her studies with Celestia, she might have been Celestia's protege, whereas Twilight would have become the new stand-in for Luna. I think they would have been really cool as the new succession of Alicorn rulers. Also, here's a drawing tip for you in case you struggle with eyes looking off, because that was how I felt about my eye drawings for a hot minute. The thing that worked for me is to minimize the width of the eye whites or blank space to make sure they don't exceed the thickness of the lines or width of the pupils. The way I do this is by thickening the eye lines inwards. For example, I think these eyes pop a lot more than these ones because to me, the more empty space there is, the more unfinished it looks. But that's just me personally. If you prefer eyes with more space in them, then all the power to you, but I think having less empty space works better for my style personally. Now, while sketching in Sunset's fabulous hair, I realized that she actually had a wolf cut, which traces its roots from the glam rock movement of the 70s and is a combination of two iconic hairstyles from that period, a shag haircut and a mullet. However, the wolf cut itself would only be popularized by K-pop idols in the early 2020s, and since Sunset has been wearing this hairstyle since 2013, I think it's safe to say that she was way ahead of her time, as to be expected of Trailblazer's Sunset Shimmer. So obviously I wouldn't be changing something so iconic and chic. And honestly, this is great practice for me when it comes to drawing layered hair because I actually have a character with a similar kind of haircut. I think what it comes down to is the volume and different lengths to really define those segments. Also, I personally find this interesting, so I want to share it with you guys. But isn't it interesting how Sunset in her human form has a middle part, but Sunset in her pony form has a side part? This kind of design discrepancy doesn't happen with any other character between their two forms. Not even Rarity, who arguably has a similar hairstyle to Sunset's pony form. Maybe because no mare has ever been designed with a middle part? Maybe it'll make her look too human? That seems to be a recurring problem in modern MLP. Because if they kept Sunset's hairstyle consistent in her pony form, it would actually look something like this. I don't know if that's better or not though. Anywho, we finally get to the most challenging part, picking out Sunset's clothes. To be fair, her original clothes still had character, but it was also very kiddie looking, which is understandable given the show's target audience. However, I think we can probably push that look further to bring out Sunset's character even more. In case you haven't watched my previous redesign video where I introduced a new premise for the show, the characters in my version of Equestria Girls are aged up to be young adults in their 20s so that they are developmentally closer with their pony counterparts, who are fully independent and have their own jobs and businesses. Now for Sunset, I knew from the start that I wanted to put her in a leather jacket because of course that's like her signature look, that's like her thing. And I think she'd look really cool in an intricate one with a lot of straps for accents to really make it pop. And of course, it would be cropped for extra chic points. Unfortunately, this does mean that her lean arms will no longer be visible, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Sunset would definitely accessorize, so I gave her an assortment of trendy chokers, and underneath that, I thought she would look great in a corset top, so that was exactly what I did. I was really pleased with her top, so now let's work on her bottoms. I also already had a plan for her pants, and I was thinking of something along the lines of ripped jeans that she probably customized herself, accessorized by a techwear-inspired belt, and of course, hanging chains for extra character. And for her shoes, I obviously had to go for trendy ankle boots loosely inspired by riding boots as a nod to her horse origins. And that's her design done. Now, while I clean up the sketch and lines, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Raycon. If you're an artist, then you probably know how important background noise is when you're working on a drawing. Heck, you're probably using this video right now as background noise. I know, because I do the same thing. So a good pair of earbuds are essential for my creative process. Luckily for me, Raycon sent me a pair of their upgraded everyday earbuds, now with active noise cancellation to drown out the pesky voices outside and inside my head. Despite being half the price of my AirPods, the everyday earbuds deliver the same, if not better, audio quality, comfort, and convenience. It's actually become my main earbuds at this point. Plus, it comes in a variety of vibrant colors and an ergonomic design that isn't just falling out of your ear constantly and is super comfortable to wear. For my Raycons, I picked the blush violet and paired it with the Dreamy Clouds protective case. And now I look super stylish and aesthetic, what can I say? The batteries last for 32 hours and charges super fast. It's also sweat resistant, which makes it great for the rare occasion that you work out because, let's face it, we're artists. We just sit and rot all day at our desks. But hey, at least you're prepared. On top of that, Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee, so there's really no reason not to give them a try. Click the link in my description box or go to buyraycon.com/callimara to get 15% off your Raycon purchase plus free shipping. Now back to the video. So while I colored Sunset in, I realized that her human version also has a lighter base color than her pony form. I wouldn't have even noticed if it weren't for this redesign, but I still think it's weird that they had to do this unnecessary adjustment for literally all the characters except Rarity, because she's already white and you literally couldn't go any lighter on the color wheel. It's not like they're even trying to be realistic with their skin tones. You literally have characters with green, blue, and purple skin. It's just, I don't know, it's a choice to be sure. And because I know someone is going to bring this up in my comments, I'm aware the main explanation that gets thrown around is that they did that to avoid racially coding their characters in any way. But to that, I also want to ask, why? Why is it that if a character is racially coded as different races, it would ruin someone's enjoyment of that character? Why would a character being a different race than what you thought they would be change how you feel about them when they're still literally the same character and their race never mattered in the first place? Sure, it's disappointing when a personal headcanon gets disproven, but you literally have the creative freedom to interpret characters in any way you want if they are written and purposefully made to be ambiguous. Canon does not matter in headcanon. That's the whole point of a headcanon. There's no need to hate on other people who interpret them differently as long as it's not hurting anyone. And if you are going out of your way to do that, maybe there are issues within yourself that need examining. Just saying. But let's get back on track, shall we? If you haven't seen my Twilight redesign yet, I would recommend checking it out because I go into more detail about my rewrite premise for Equestria Girls. But essentially, instead of having the story be set in high school, which limits opportunities for the girls to showcase their individuality and talent, and honestly makes the setting way more generic and run-of-the-mill, the girls will be more similar to their Equestria counterparts in that they are young adults with their own businesses. Essentially, Equestria Girls would be intended for MLP's older audience, like the Bronies, and would serve as the mainline show's cooler older sibling, much like what my scene is to the Barbie series. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Sunset Shimmer. Before coming to the human world, Sunset Shimmer was a protege of Celestia's that started her studies not long after Twilight did, and it was implied that she was of equal talent and power to Twilight Sparkle herself. But her folly was her hunger for power and her impatience. When she didn't get what she wanted as fast as she wanted it, she turned cruel and dishonest, abandoning her studies and fleeing into the magic mirror. Don't ask me how those two things correlate because I don't know. I'm actually kind of surprised because I, for some reason, thought that Sunset had been banished to the human world by Princess Celestia. But now that I think about it, I could have been mixing up how Sunset got to the human world with how the Sirens got there. Because they actually were banished. Not by Celestia, mind, but you know. However, the fact that Sunset got to the human world through the magic mirror like Twilight actually raises more questions. The most important of all being, where is the original human Sunset and what happened to her? If Sunset Shimmer had been banished by Celestia, it could have been waved off as her reaching the human world through unique circumstances different from Twilight's, like her being zapped into the mind of her human counterpart and replacing her completely. Morbid, perhaps, but the alternative is Sunset finding her double and ending her career in living to take her place, and that just seems much more involved. Or I guess there's the boring third option, which is that she exists outside of the main character's social circle and they simply never cross paths. It's a big world after all. Heck, maybe based on Sunset Shimmer's penchant for going wayward, the human version of her is in Equestria somewhere. I think that last option is the funniest, so that's my theory on what happened in canon. But in all seriousness, how would I handle Sunset's writing in my new premise? Well, first things first, I would have committed hard to the idea of Sunset being the villain that causes the inciting event of Equestria Girls. In her pursuit of power beyond her means, Sunset nearly unleashed a catastrophic event that would have destroyed Equestria, but was luckily stopped in time by her mentor, Celestia. However, due to her transgressions, Sunset was then banished to a world completely without magic, the human world. The way this banishment works would be something similar to the sirens from the second movie, where the human world served as their prison and stopped them from using their powers. Now, I'm sure the human world isn't the only non-magical place in the entire multiverse, so my thinking is that the banishment spell purposefully chose a universe in which Sunset Shimmer doesn't exist, so that she could remain there indefinitely without causing a paradox, and that just so happened to be the human world. So there's only one Sunset Shimmer. Now, obviously, Sunset hates it there and has been searching for a way to return to Equestria ever since. In the meantime, she's become something of a known menace to the local law enforcement and community at large, causing trouble, stealing, vandalizing public property with graffiti, but never getting caught because she's always one step ahead. I imagine she would develop a following of fellow anarchists who both fear and admire her and are happy to do her bidding. Kind of like a local gang. However, she eventually discovers the portal to Equestria at Canterlot High School, which in my version would be Canterlot University, and eagerly steps through. She finds herself in the Crystal Castle, and immediately senses powerful magic from Twilight's crown and decides to steal it. Still in her blind pursuit of power, she hoped to bring it back to the non-magical human world where she would reign supreme, uncontested as the only magical being in existence there. Of course, Pony Twilight goes after her, except the whole thing now isn't set in a high school and doesn't hinge on winning a popularity contest for a school dance. Instead, I think it's more that Sunset hid away with the crown in a lair she'd built to try and decode its magic so she can absorb its power. Because for Sunset, friendship magic is brand new. It's an unknown school of magic that she's unfamiliar with. And Twilight still has to seek assistance from the human versions of her friends to find where Sunset is and get the crown back before she figures out how to use it. So there's less emphasis on petty high school bullying and more actual cartoon villainy, watching their every move from the surveillance cameras Sunset built and installed around town, eavesdropping on their conversations for any hints of how she can unlock the crown's power, and of course sending her gang members after them to interfere with their work and slow them down so she can buy herself more time. Sunset does manage to harness the crown's power before Twilight could stop her, resulting in her iconic demon form, but with the help of Twilight's friends, they manage to defeat Sunset Shimmer and teach her that true power lies in the principles of friendship. You know the deal. So, after that, Sunset is reformed and does her best to make amends. I imagine at this point she'd disband her gang, though a few members probably insisted on sticking around because they admired her. And she'd try to figure out what she's going to do with her life and how she can make the most of her banishment. Probably as she's serving community service for the petty crimes she's committed through the years, she comes across one of her old graffitis, and that gives her a light bulb moment about how much she enjoyed making it, how it was one of the few things that appeased her during her turbulent years. So she decides to pursue a career in art. Hence, Sunset Shimmer, the eccentric art student. I imagine she's really into creating custom things and curating her wardrobe, including the flame accents on her pants and boots, which she probably hand-painted. She doesn't really do it for fashion or style like Rarity would, but more for personal self-expression and individuality as an extension of her art, regardless of whether or not it'll be on trend. Let me know what you think of my rewrite and redesign in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out in my channel for a while. I hope your skin didn't get too pruny. Big shout out to my lovely pond dwellers on Patreon. If you want to become a pond dweller and get early access to my content, like my redesigns and rewrites and my original series, join my Patreon. If you want to see more from me, then please follow me on all my social media. If you want to submit fan art or chat with me, join my Discord server. And if you want more of my stories, check out my Wild Word series here on YouTube because that will make me really happy. All the links are in my description, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!